As we flip the calendar to May, there's some stars who are still struggling to get their footing this season in baseball. So what do? Is it time to panic or do you just sit tight? That's the big question with Mr. RBI, Jose Abreu, who is now in his first year with the Houston Astros. After 9 seasons with the White Sox, being one of the most consistent and reliable sluggers at first base in the majors, he's just downright struggling this year. Currently hitting .239, not a single home run yet after a month of action. 12 RBIs, that's okay, but not what we were expecting when he moved to this loaded Astros lineup, and 7 runs scored. And of course, he's not getting any steals. There are a lot of concerning signs. As of right now, he's got the lowest walk rate of his career, highest strikeout rate of his career, and the worst exit velocity of his career. With the fact that he's now 36 years old, is this a sign that he's hit that cliff and is just falling off hard? I'm not going to go that far just yet. I mean, after all, a year ago, he looked more than fine. In fact, was putting up elite expected stats, 98th percentile in expected batting average and OBP, and was still hitting the ball really hard. So I doubt that this offseason that everything just fell apart for him physically. No injuries that we've heard of, nothing else that would make a difference except for one thing, and that's the obvious, change of scenery. Could it just be the fact that he's adjusting to life on a new team in a new city? It just might be. I mean, it sounds crazy for a guy who's such an experienced veteran. We got to remember, the White Sox were the only team he knew in the majors since coming over from Cuba. It might just be an adjustment period. It's been a long adjustment. I know, we're already a month in the season, but still, there's no other reason I can think of that he would really be this bad this quickly. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt here. I know if you have him, you're probably getting tired of it. Just hit a home run already. It'll happen. It's got to happen eventually. He's got a great team context. You can't get much better than the defending World Series champions. Now, he has been moved down just a little bit in the lineup, down to 6th, which is understandable, or at least that's the plan against right-handers. That might be the wake-up call he needs. I think, if anything, not yet. I'm not going to put him in my buy low video just yet, but I think the time might come because people are starting to get desperate and maybe they'll think, hey, he's done, he's washed. It's possible, but I'm not really too worried as of right now. But what's the deal with Eugenio Suarez of the Mariners? He's 31 years old, not nearly as old as Abreu. He's been with the Mariners now a couple of seasons. So why isn't he going deep? Guy who's usually among the leaders in home runs, only has 2 on the season, and now has a 13-game homerless streak. It's really noticeable if you look his barrel rate, which has been among the best, 90th percentile or better in the last 4 straight seasons, and now it's just mid. His plate discipline has never really been that great, so I'm not going to look at that, but I can tell you that the hard hit rate, that hard contact that we're used to, hasn't quite been there. So what is the deal? Did he and Jared Kelenic do a body swap? Well, digging into the peripherals, really not a lot has changed in his profile. He's still a fly ball hitter. He still is making decent contact. He's sacrificing a few fly balls for line drives, which is generally not a bad thing, but it's just the homers haven't come yet. It's not like this guy's changing his approach or anything like that. Everything seems in place for him to do kind of what he's been doing. You're not going to get a great batting average. You knew that going in, but I think the home runs will come, so I really wouldn't worry too much about him either. Could be a different story for Salvador Perez of the Kansas City Royals, though. So far in the season, he's got 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, hitting a respectable .267. But what happened to the guy that just 2 seasons ago almost went for 50 home runs, had 121 ribbies? The guy who was an MVP in fantasy leagues and one of the best offensive catchers in the game. Well, that season, my friends, is what you call an outlier. He's always been a good hitter. Power has been there. But when I say good, I mean good for mid-20s, maybe 30 home runs. That 48 homer season was clearly not just a career year, but a big outlier. An otherwise solid, but not overly amazing career. Last season, predictably, took a step down. This season, another small step down again. He's posting the lowest hard hit percentage since 2015 and his lowest ISO, that's isolated power, since 2016. As far as catchers go, he'll be fine. I mean, he'll still be one of the better offensive catchers in fantasy, But again, this is a far cry from what you saw a couple years ago. And if you expect anything close to that, then you were silly, because that wasn't going to happen. If you're expecting a repeat of last year, well, that's reasonable to assume, but I do think we will see another step down against this guy who's older. Catchers, physically wear down over time, and it's starting to happen. What you see is what you're getting, and the rest of this Royals offense isn't helping them too much. I've talked about a lot of their guys so far this season who have gotten off to really slow starts, even their young players. I don't think we should really expect too much more going forward. You can't panic about him. You can't worry, because you should have known what you were getting yourself into. And again, at catcher, there's not many ways to do better. Now, I do want to get into some pitchers. We've seen enough starts here from some of these guys that we can take something away. Although Joe Musgrove, we've only seen 2 starts from him, and there's already some full-blown panic from his fantasy owners. Musgrove was on the IL before the season even started, some toe and shoulder issues, so finally got back just about a week ago and was roughed up. Not terribly, but he did give up 3 runs in about 5 1/3 inning, and then got pounded. So he's now allowed 10 runs, 13 hits in just over 8 innings of work. Might be worried now. Maybe he shouldn't have come off the IL just yet. Maybe he's not right physically, something going on. Maybe just a lot of rust from the fact that he hadn't pitched all of April. And then I've seen some analysts pretty much excuse his last start where he got obliterated by saying it was in Mexico City, the elevation, yada yada. I don't think that excuse is giving up so many home runs. I will say I'm not pushing the panic button here yet either. Besides the fact it's just 2 starts, so far his velocity has looked the same. It's fine. It tells me probably not a shoulder issue or anything physical involved here. And his command has actually been good too. He's not walking batters, getting himself into trouble with these prolonged innings. Just got a few too many hard hit balls in him. But again, I think a lot of that might be kind of just getting back into game shape. This is a veteran. We've seen him do it year after year. I know you don't love seeing what's happened so far, especially if he's in your lineup. But I would say keep him on the shelf for now, but don't drop. Definitely, and don't sell low. A lot of people did drop Miles Mikolas of St. Louis because, well, he's a guy who already, isn't going to get you a lot in the strikeout department. He's all about command, controlling the strike zone, can get you wins in St. Louis, and he's been a really effective guy, but never the high ceiling. And so when he's giving up runs and hurting your ratios, you really have no incentive to keep him. He gave up at least 5 earned runs in each of his first 3 starts on the season. So as great as the Cardinals' offense was to start the season, man, their pitching did struggle at times, and Mikolas, who's supposed to be their most dependable starter, was the worst. But if you dig deeper than just the season totals, you'll see that he has started to turn things around. In his last 3 starts, he gave up 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, and no earned runs, going at least 5 innings in each start. Can't say for sure what happened those first couple of weeks of the season, but I feel like we got the guy back who we're used to, and that is a guy who can command the strike zone, can eat up some innings. No, he's not going to pile up a ton of Ks, but he should actually help your ratios. Overlook those ugly season totals right now. If he was dropped in any of your leagues, I'd say at least 12 teams or deeper, I'd go ahead and pick him up right now. And then we're finally going to get to a young player here, and that is Nick Lodolo, Cincinnati Reds, young left-hander. Now with Lodolo, it was the opposite situation of a guy like Mikolas. First 3 starts was on fire. 2.12 ERA and 27 strikeouts just in those first 3 starts. It was looking like a true breakout season for him, and then he broke down. After his last 3 starts, he's got that ERA all the way up to 6.16, and the whip is 1.73. It's really easy to pinpoint the problem here, and that's the long ball. He only gave up 1 homer in the first 3 starts. In the last 3 starts alone, 7 home runs. We knew this could be a problem, being a young pitcher who occasionally loses command of the strike zone, but also being a pitcher in Cincinnati. That is a favorable ballpark for hitters for sure, and he happened to run into the Tampa Bay Rays, who definitely took advantage, and the Texas Rangers, who were hot at the time. I don't know how you explain this last outing, though, against the Oakland A's. He was actually pitching in Oakland, which is a great pitcher's park, and it was against the A's. Maybe losing a little bit of confidence. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that even in that outing, despite the fact he still got hit fairly hard, he struck out 7 and didn't walk a single batter. So here's what I'll say about Lodolo. You should kind of worry about your ratios every time you put him out there because you don't know a pitcher like this is going to get hit hard or not. But I think you have to keep him in there because the strikeout upside is so great, as we've seen. Right now, he's got the third highest K per 9 rate in the majors behind only Spencer Strider and Jacob deGrom, and he's coming in just ahead of his teammate Hunter Green. Green and Lodolo, both very similar, pile up strikeouts, but could also get hit hard on occasion. It's kind of all or nothing with these guys, but I'll take on the risk and have him in my lineup because, again, he's helping you so much in that one category. When he's on, also, he is really on. Hope he settles down. Hopefully the month of May is good to him. Might not feel always super comfortable with him in your rotation, but I'm not going to do anything with him if I already have him on my roster. Those players are all struggling right now, but they might turn it around. But look for some help on the waiver wire. In the meantime, check out my latest picks for this week.